Are we recording?
Okay.
Do me a little adjustment. What's up? What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. We are out here in Houston, Texas, and you're probably asking yourself, what the hell am I doing in Houston? It's a long story, man. Got my guy, Mr. Andre, right here, man. And I don't even know how we met, man. We had to meet through social media, which
Yeah,
was
it was
crazy.
social media. Yeah, I started following you on your channel, and you had actually I remember I engaged with you. You were talking about how to keep your 10 wall tires clean, and
Definitely.
I was like, because I wanted to get a pair, and I was like, man, I was looking, I saw your content, and I was like, let me check this out. I think I hit you with a message, and then I saw that you're on Strava, and then so I started following you on Strava, and I can't even think how long ago that's been. Yeah, but that's how I connected.
So
Yeah,
I think we've been engaged in online conversation. It got to be probably like 2 years or so
at
by
least,
by
at
now,
least, at
right?
least 2 years. Yeah, yeah. I gotta give you your props. Like when I send you something, you respond. Like you come right back with me, and I was like, oh okay. I was like, oh okay, cool. He's cool. You know what I'm saying? You really about trying to inform people. So that's what I thought was cool. So that's why I stayed engaged with you.
The thing that's
Yeah,
crazy about that too, a lot of people say, "Man, you really be." I respond to every single
yeah.
thing that people. If you
Facts.
post something on my channel, I'm gonna respond to it. If I don't think it's
Yeah.
worth my acknowledgement, I might just give you a hashtag RobbArmstrong. That means I'm not too engaged in it, but I will acknowledge it, everything that goes on there, right? So jumping back to me getting to Houston, right? I'm down in San Antonio visiting my dad, and we just, man, riding bikes, just
Mhm.
enjoying life, right? So me and my dad's always talking about cycling in a different area, right?
Right.
And for those of you that don't know, last year me and my dad did the Century, right? And we rode with Major Taylor Cycling Club out in Houston, and we did it. We did the Century ride in Houston. And the crazy thing about that is the hotel that I'm in right now. This is the same hotel where we started from.
Okay.
Because when me and my dad was pulling up to
Nice.
Houston today, we was like,
Nice.
"Yo, this place looks familiar. This the exact
Not
same
realizing
spot."
it. Not
Not
realizing you
even
booked it.
realizing.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
funny.
So it's
That's
just
funny.
crazy how
Yeah.
things
So
happen.
you
But
back home.
back home, right? It's like I never left, man. Everything
Nice.
comes full circle.
Nice. Nice.
So being from Georgia down here in Houston, one of the things Andre's going to tell me about this Houston cycling scene. Talk to me about
Well,
this.
let me say this. I've started out cycling in Houston. I've always ridden bicycles, dirt bikes. I started on that, of course, built my own bikes, take them apart, all that kind of stuff. And then, throughout, my childhood and teen years and all that, I've always rode bike. But in terms of how we rode bike now, I started back in about 2015, and I started here in Houston. So back in 2015, pre-COVID, the cycling community was not reflective of people of color. I was one of few when I showed up to a group ride. I was one of few people of color. So the Houston scene has grown tremendously. Post COVID, during COVID, it was just an explosion. There are a lot of clubs, a lot of inclusive clubs that are clubs of color. You have Motherland Cycling Club, you have Justice League, and then of course you have the Major Taylor. There's actually two chapters. Houston, I can't remember the other chapter's name. However, it was an explosion, and so the amount of cyclists in Houston is just incredible. Group rides are enormous. To see group rides at 30, 40 people showing up, of course segmented through A, B, and C, it's just been awesome, man. So uh, it's I can't. It's just an exciting time to be cycling in Houston.
Just from me being in Texas, because even like in San Antonio, the cycling scene is like crazy, man.
Hmm.
And I heard you
Yep.
talk about COVID. I consider myself a COVID cyclist, right?
What?
Because
No.
I'm a COVID cyclist, right?
No.
I got my first road bike back in like 2010 when I was living in Japan, but I was not cycling back then. I was just, doing it every once
Yeah.
in a while, but it wasn't until COVID happened.
Yep.
And, I kind of slowed down running. I really wasn't going to the gym, and I
Yep.
was just looking at my bike, and it was like, hey, bro, you need to do something with this.
Yeah.
And that's how it kind of happened. So when I hear the term COVID cyclist,
Yeah.
that kind of means something to me, man. That's near and dear to my heart,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's a lot of post-COVID cyclists, and they're awesome cyclists, and a lot of them spawn these clubs that are currently here today. In fact, you talked about the Houston scene, and part of the Houston scene is that we have an app called Chasing Watts. Excuse me, it's called Chasing Watts, and it's kind of like a focal point for posting group rides, club rides, individual rides. You can create your own ride and people can join and you can put the criteria for the ride and things like that, etc. So that has also created an explosion of the COVID and post-COVID crew that's cycling here. So you have you can cycle inside within Houston city limits, or you can be in the outskirts like Pearland, Sugarland, Manville. There's all different areas that these cycling clubs cycle in. It's really awesome, man. It's really exciting. Like I'm really excited to see how the clubs have grown and the amount of inclusiveness. Even the minority clubs, they have inclusiveness of all ethnicities and nationalities. So that's an amazing thing. So there's no exclusion. So when you see Major Taylor, you see JL, or you see some of the other predominantly clubs of people of color, you also see inclusion of other ethnicity and nationality. So it's just awesome, man.
Yeah,
I
that's
love it.
super dope.
Yeah,
So when you told me about that Chasing
yeah.
Watts app,
Hmm.
is that specific to Houston? Did that start here, or was that just like a global thing? I was thinking it was like kind of
Yeah,
like another version of Strava or something, but just more so for posting
yeah.
routes and letting people know where you at and what you're doing.
Yeah, so that's a great question because pre-COVID, a couple guys that I know that they race and they were putting together this website app platform pre-COVID, and it was called Chasing Watts, and it was very I don't know what word to use, but it was kind of crude initially, like it didn't have a lot of interaction to it. So anyway, as when COVID hit, they developed it even more towards a very interactive app. I don't know who currently owns it, but it's well maintained. It's very informative. It's very user friendly, and anyone can virtually post their ride and create a group ride out of it. So it's pretty cool, and it interacts with I think riding with GPS, and then Strava for downloading routes. So if you get dropped or if you just want to ride solo, you can download the app and then download the route directly from Chasing Watts. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
They've done a
it's
great
crazy.
job with it. Yeah,
I'll throw it up there so you can see it on the screen and probably give you some screenshot and some
yeah,
interactive interaction so you can see what
yeah.
the app is about.
Hmm.
But when Drake told me about the app and I was pulling up and looking at it, preparing for the ride that we're going to do tomorrow, I was like, yo, it's got all
Nice.
kind of information in there. And me having like an IT
Yeah.
background, I appreciate unnecessary data. I don't know why, I just do. But when you go in there, it just tells you everything. It's
Everything.
an overload of information pertaining to where you want to go, how you want to ride, who's riding, are you going. It's a super dope app. Check it out, Chasing Watts, man. Really dope app. So, question for you, right?
Yes.
You've been cycling for a while. You a pre-COVID cyclist.
Pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, baby.
Does the bike really make a difference? Like the bike that you ride, does it really make a difference?
I'm really glad you asked that because I get asked that a lot. A lot of people come to me. I've been riding for a while, like you said. I think that the condition of your body has a lot to do with it. How you train, your nutrition, your hydration, because that's going to affect your performance on whatever you're on, whether you're on a skateboard, rollerblades, or bicycle. So as long as you have good nutrition, good hydration, and you're flexible, and you're going to have a good ride. So when you say does the bike matter, I've been on my single speed and I've done 50 miles with A group and I've averaged 22. So that's just one gear. But Houston is very flat now. Now the next day my legs were burned, but so I would say the bike makes it easier in terms of resistance. So in cycling, you hear things about like roller resistance, aerodynamics. So having a good bike will make it easier for you to perform. It'll be like, having the best tennis shoes on to play basketball versus having some old Chuck Taylors. So you're going to be able to cut and move differently in the latest tennis shoes versus some old school Chuck Taylors. So I think same thing can be said. Why should I go out and buy a high-end bicycle? Well, if your skill level is that to whereas you're going to be cutting and moving and you're in physical condition, I would recommend you invest in a high-end bicycle, but don't be deceived. You can do very well on an entry level bicycle. My first bicycle was an Orbea, um, and I think I paid $3,000 for it, and that could be expensive for most. Um, but I was keeping up with guys on S Works and all type of bikes because I was physically conditioned. So the bike that I had did not hold me back because I was physically conditioned. So take those two things into account: your physical ability, and then what your budget is and what you're willing to do on the bike.
It's crazy you say budget, right? Because
Yeah,
sometimes people talk to me about bikes and they're like, hey man, what's the best bike? And or they say, what bike do I recommend? The first thing I always ask them is, what is your budget? The
yeah,
thing I'll tell everybody is like, stay within your budget. If you
right.
got a budget, stay within the budget.
Yeah,
But I will also say this, right? When it comes to recommendation, and this is anything for me, if it comes to like video equipment, biking stuff, gun stuff, If you're telling me this is something I'm going to do, this is something I'm going to be into, I never recommend the entry level. I'd say at least get like a mid grade, just for, even if for some reason you say you're going to be about it and you're not, it's going to have better resale. It's going to last you longer. And most times, you get into a hobby that you really, really like, and you got an entry level, man, you're gonna be going full gas, and you're gonna be like, dang, I should have just spent a couple more dollars and got the mid tier. So if you're asking me, I'll probably recommend a mid tier if you're telling me this is what you want to do, but I'll also recommend staying in the budget. So if the budget is here and I recommend a mid tier, you probably would go with a used bike. That's what I would probably recommend kind of getting into it, right? And when you talk about bikes, I heard you talk about single speeds, but I heard a rumor, man. I heard you ride a Cervelo S5. Is this true?
Yeah, yeah.
Talk
That.
to me about this
Oh
bike.
yeah. That. Yeah, man. Oh man. The Cervelo S5 is just an amazing bike. I own a couple other bicycles, but it's my bike of choice. It's just an amazing bike. I bought it when they initially wrote the bike out back in 2019, and I've ridden other people's bikes, and it's just an amazing bike. The aerodynamics on it is amazing. The In terms of the comfort, you're going to sacrifice some comfort because the bike is designed for aerodynamics. So you're just going to position your body frame at a lower level or pitch. I don't know what the terminology is for that. So it's not like a century bike, but when you're talking about racing and you're talking about getting some speed, when you hit about 20 miles an hour, all my friends say the same thing. They're like, something about 20 miles an hour on this bike, the aerodynamics kick in. It's like it's easier to pedal. It's amazing. When I was reading the reviews about it, the pros were even saying that. They said at about 20 miles an hour, the bike comes alive. It feels heavy below 20, but once you get up to 20, it's something different, man. And it is.
The thing that's crazy about the speed of that bike, right? If you go on Cervelo website, right? Go on Cervelo website and pull up the S5, right? The first line, the Cervelo tells you the S5 has one job: get to the line faster than anybody else. So it lets you know right there it's a full out aero bike. Now, regarding your S5, how do you have it configured? Like what wheels you got on it, tires you got on it? You
Oh
run the
yeah.
electronic group set.
Yeah, you know what? Initially, when I didn't go with the electronic group set, which is, in my opinion, I wish I had a went electronic group set. I kind of did what you did. Recommend I kind of went middle of the road. I was like, well, if I'd have went Di2, that places in a higher category for price point, and this was being my second bike, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go middle of the road. So I didn't get the Di2. Regrettably, I wish I had, but the transmission or whatever, the gear set is so smooth, there's not a lot of lag in it. So um, I think that I did have the Continental GPs on there. I had some 30s black wall. I just recently switched to the 10 wall tires. Love the 10 wall tires. They just make it pop, man.
It's
My stuff looks gangster, for the lack of another word. It just looks gangster. So I have the size 30 on the front, 30 on the back, and then I have the reserve wheel set that Cervelo has specifically designed for this bicycle. It's something about the shape of the rim is like at a diamond, I believe, on the
yeah.
back side, so that it optimizes the aerodynamics. And then I used to have the cockpit slammed, so now I called Cervelo USA, and I was surprised they sent me the spacers to lift my bars up because I never got the bars when I bought the bike. I had them immediately slam it. Slamming is where there's how
It's minimal space. It's as low as it can go.
as low as it could go,
Yeah.
which puts me in a very aero position. So I recently lifted the cockpit just to save my back a little bit because I've been doing a lot of high mileage stuff, and so I was like, oh, let me save my back. But it's an amazing bike. There's not a lot of modifications other than that. It's pretty much stock.
The reserve wheels, are they the truth?
Yes, they are. They are. So it's this is a great question because I originally, again, I went middle of the road when I purchased this bicycle, and so I put some Reynolds on there. And the Reynolds, I've had them on there since 2019 up until about 6 months ago. They performed excellent. Reynolds, I will buy them again. I loved them, but all my guys were rolling the reserves on their Cervelos. I was like, that little green eye envy jumped in, and I was like, man, I want to put some reserves on. So I had an opportunity to buy these from a friend who had an extra set. So I know
He
that's
got
a,
another set.
I know, right?
He got another
I
set.
know, right? I actually know a guy that does have another set. But so to say, So I poured off the Reynolds wheels and I put this set on. My cadence is a lot smoother.
Mm.
The engagement is a lot faster than what I had on the Reynolds. The Reynolds were like a three paw.
Yeah.
But that tells you how hard I was working because I was working hard and being fast on three paw uh, set on the back. So this has a higher level of engagement. So I would highly recommend them. They the truth. They the truth.
See, that's how I know you're a real bike guy, right? Because a lot of people don't know about these fine details, right? When he's talking about that engagement, this is me, right? I've been riding for about 3 years, but I built I don't know how many dang on bikes I didn't build and different wheels I went on. Me personally, if the wheel has a pause system, I'm not interested in it because it's not going to give me the level of engagement that I want. I usually prefer things that have like that star ratchet system, like the DT Swiss or something like that.
Yep.
And if it was up to me, I would like I got a set of Bond Tracker wheels, right? And I changed the star ratchet on it, and it has a 62 star ratchet. The level of engagement is almost instantaneous. It's like you're riding that fixie, man. As soon as you smash the pedals, it just goes. And I had a set of Reynolds. I had a
Okay.
set of Reynolds. It was the ARX 5862s, and I was so used to riding that star ratchet engagement. I didn't like the engagement on the Reynolds
Yeah.
just because it's kind of hard to explain. If you don't know, you don't know. But once you start riding a wheel with a good set of engagement, it's kind of hard to go back to that pause system.
I completely agree with that. So again, my cadence was smoother because the engagement, and so the ratchet system is kind of just as it sounds. It's literally like this, and so it turns where the paw system you may have three paws that are engaged in the hub. So you're absolutely right. Now Reynolds, take nothing from them, very durable rim. 4 years, I was beasting on them. And then once I got on these reserve, my cadence got smoother. And it's like, oh my gosh. It's like, I completely agree, man. No more pause systems for me.
So when you talk about cadence, what's a good cadence for you?
That's a great question because I get in my sweet spot, right? So my sweet spot cadence on in any gear is generally I kind of spin. So I'm going to be like in the 90s. I'm gonna be like 90. I know guys look at me and my boys they say Andre. They's like when I see you with that high cadence, it makes me worried because they know I haven't even gotten down to my low
It's a
gears.
problem.
Exactly. So the guys are like, they're like, man, when I see you spinning fast, I know you got more power because there ain't no way you turning those pedals that fast. So I'm a high cadence guy. My background is actually running. So it gives me the endurance and the high turnover rate of my legs, right? So I'm used to that high turnover. I'm not really a grinder. I'm not really a slow, put it in the lowest gear and grind out. That's not me. But that high cadence reserves my slow twitch muscles. And so my fast twitch muscles are keeping me going. So I'm doing like 90, 95, sometimes even 100 in a group ride. And so by the time everybody take off, my legs are rested. I just drop down to the heavy gears and
I'm about to talk gears, right? Because I'm looking at his S5 right now, right? His rear cassette's got to be like an 18, the biggest tube on there. It's so small, man. What gears are you running on this bike?
oh man, you know,
Because look at your cassette and look at my cassette.
I
Your
know.
cassette is
I know.
wait.
So that's a great question, Rob. That's a great question. So my cassette is relevant to the territory that I'm in, right? So because I'm in Houston, you can ride 100 miles in Houston and may only climb 500 feet of elevation. Like that's insane from other parts of the country. So because Houston is so flat in the outlining areas, a lot of guys here and gals, we roll with very tight cassettes because we don't need the taller gears for climbing. So if we have to climb, we often go to the second chain ring on the front to compensate for the small cassette on the back. So it's very indicative to the landscaping. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, anybody that knows me, and I only say this because my guy Rob is sitting here. I don't trash talk, but I can climb too. So I'm a climber. I got a few KOMs at climbing, and there's a few areas out by Prairie View and A&M that we go out and we cycle in that has a lot of elevation. So I do like maybe 3,500 feet of elevation and average maybe about an 18 over like 60 miles.
That's a
So
beast.
facts.
What chain rings are you running up front?
Um,
Size wise.
the front I think is a 52
36.
36 on the yeah 52 36. I don't know a lot about gearing. You'll probably have to help me out on that one.
Okay. So that looks about right for the 5236. Because when we talk about like cadence and gearing, I came from a TT bike. Like that was my first bike, and that's all I was riding exclusively. And then I got into road biking. So it's been a difficult. I'm not gonna say difficult. It's been an interesting transition trying to get into the world bike world, right?
Right.
So for me, I'm naturally, I guess I consider myself more of a grinder than a spinner because
Mm.
me, a good cadence is probably between like 81 and 85. Yeah, yeah, and I'm a big gear guy, right? So
Right,
I
right,
run a
right.
5440 up front
Okay.
and 1134, and that 34
Okay.
helps me, gives me a little save, but
Yeah.
I prefer the big gear, man, because when I
Nice.
jump on like a
Nice.
52, I just feel like my legs gonna go
Yeah.
through the floor,
Yeah.
man. It's like I can't spin like that. Oh man, I might have to get into it because I'm actually thinking about getting an S5.
Mm.
And the one I was looking at, the front chainring on it is a 5236. And I'm telling myself if I get that bike, Rob, just ride it and just see because you don't know what you don't know. So that's what I'm trying to tell myself is check out that 5236. But I'm still getting a big ass cassette out back. I can't roll with that.
No, not in Atlanta. You can't do that. That's something different. But if I can make a recommendation for you, a change that I'm about to upgrade on my S5 is that the arm lengths. I currently have 170s, and we're about similar in height. I'm gonna go to a 165. And so what that's going to do is my pedal stroke is going to be shortened. And so it's going to increase my cadence
Cadence, yeah.
even more. So if you're not a cadence guy, then consider your height and you may want to shorten the length. Most bikes come standard with like a 170 or 172. I'm 5'7". I'm gonna do a 165. I know other guys that are my height that went to like a 165. It increased their cadence and their power because the rotation is less. You're not stroking all the way down. You're stroking less, so you can increase your momentum and increase your power output with a few more revolutions, but with less effort. And so I'm going to give it a shot.
I think that'd be good. And from what you're saying, I think all of that is right on point. And like I said, I came from the TT world, so for a 165 crank is normal for me. So when I
Mm.
first came to road bike, I was riding a 165 crank,
Oh, there.
and it was messing with my bike fit. So eventually, I went to a 170, and the 170 for me on a road bike is more comfortable. I
Mm.
do have a TT bike, and on my TT bike, I run a 165 crank. But
Mm.
one of the things I thought about is now it seems like a lot more people and companies are experimenting with crank lift. They got that in between. They make a 167.5, which is
Oh
kind of like
wow.
the sweet spot
Oh wow.
of both. And I'm thinking about trying that on something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but a 165 on the road bike. I don't know. It's not super comfortable for me.
Hmm.
The 170 seems like the better spot, but I'd be if your cadence goes to like 105. I don't even want to. I don't,
You ain't going to see
I
me.
don't even want to see you,
Yeah.
man.
And so for me, the way the high cadence work for me, like I mentioned a moment ago, is that if I can maintain a high cadence, I'm engaging, I'm aerobic, I'm not anaerobic. And so all my anaerobic is being stored. And so my fast twitch muscle, they're just ready for that. When somebody take off, I'm right behind them. And I'm doing minimum work because my cadence is somewhat high and I'm not exerting a lot of pressure or power. And I actually had to train myself to that. So I would do rides where I was like, okay, let me get my cadence up because some guys when they do the high cadence, their heart rate shoots up, and so when that happens, then you need to bring your cadence down and just gradually increase your cadence over several miles so that your body and your heart rate works together because a high cadence will lift your heart rate. You almost feel like you're running. You almost feel like you're running. So
Are you wearing a heart rate monitor?
yes,
Do
yeah.
you wear a chest or arm?
Man, I have both, but I have the new Garmin chest strap, and it's pretty cool, man. I don't prefer the chest strap, but it's more accurate and uncomfortable. But this new one that Garmin has out, it you don't have to have it attached to your watch. It's actually its own hardware, and it connects to your cell phone. It's a white color. I can't recall the exact name
Oh
of
yeah,
it,
I gotta check that out.
but it tracks your cadence, your walk, a GPS in it for I think up to like 18 hours, and then you reconnect to your phone. So you don't need to have like a master device when you wear it. It's kind of cool. So I have that one. So I don't
Oh
prefer
man,
the chest strap, but it's
yeah.
kind of comfortable.
I talk to a lot of people and I don't really wear the heart rate. People say, man, you need to be checking your heart rate. You need to be checking your heart rate. But I don't really like this the chest strap, right? And I had got the Wahoo one that goes on your arm, and I really wasn't even wearing it on my arm. I was wearing it down on my wrist like a watch. But now you're just talking about this Garmin one. I think that may be the one
Yeah.
to look at, because when I'm out on the road riding, I never do heart rate. The only time I really train heart rate is like if I'm inside on Zwift doing efforts, which is, I don't know, kind of crazy. But when I'm on the bike, I'm pretty much on power. That's the thing that kind of what that's my measuring stick of how much I'm doing, or how much I should be doing, or if I'm going out of tolerance. So when you're out riding, what keeps you in check? Are you monitoring power, cadence,
Yeah.
or heart rate, or just
So that's actually a great question, and I talk about this with my guys that we train together with. I have a Canyon air rod, air road or air rod, tomato tomato rather, but and it has all. I don't have a power meter on my Cervelo, but my Canyon does. But I'm really not a big data guy. I'm like an old school, how does it feel guy. So I go by heart rate, and so even when I used to weight train, I go by what zones am I in heart rate wise, because it's letting me know how hard I'm exerting my body. I know some of my friends, they go by power meter. I want to be at 200 watts for 30 minutes, or 150 watts for 10 minutes, and that I can't sync well with that, even though I have the data right on my Garmin. So for me, if I look at my heart rate and it says 165, so that tells me I need to back off because I'm above tempo. Or if I'm at like 120 to 130 or 140, I know I'm in zone 1 or 2, so I know how hard I'm working. So I'm kind of a heart rate, old school training type guy. But I do think there's something to be said for training within the power meter zones.
okay? So kind of going back to, because you got real and you got feel. I'm a big person on feel, right? Like someone can tell me these numbers mean this, but if it don't feel right, it don't feel right. And some people don't understand that.
Right.
And I can't really explain this. Like some things feel good and some things don't. So speaking of that, for how long you've been cycling, the different bikes that you have and how you're riding, do you believe in a bike fit, and have you had one?
Yeah, I have not had a formal bike fit. I feel like YouTube University, guys like Robb, he's a wealth of information. This is my guy here. But guys like yourself that give great content kind of have helped me evolve into a better bike fit. So I've not had a formal bike fit, just kind of like trial and error. I make the adjustments. And I also watch other people. Like yesterday, I was riding with a couple guys, and I noticed his hips were like um, tilting off the seat. So it told me that there was something off on his bike fit. So, for myself, I try to make sure that my hips are stable, make sure my pedal stroke is smooth and consistent. So I'm kind of more of a feel guy. I make minor adjustments and tweaks on my own. I probably shouldn't, but I will say I do recommend a bike fit. I'm a strong advocate of it, even though I'm kind of like a do-it-yourselfer. But I seen some people get some great results from bike fits.
I will say the same thing. If you're getting into cycling or you just kind of clueless of where to start or where to go, I do highly recommend getting a bike fit. I've had four bike fits, right? And every one of them, I can't necessarily say it was bad, because every one of them I learned a little something else. But now I'm at the point, it's like I kind of know what feels like, what feels right, or what feels good, or what doesn't feel good. And when it comes to the feel on the bike, one of the things that really helped me out is having a dual-sided power meter. Because with that dual-sided power meter, you got some of the matrix that's like talk about like the psychodynamics, pedal smoothness,
Right.
where you're generating power in the stroke, and that really helps me figure out like my bike fit. And over the years, what I found the most as far as bike fit, what's been helping me is really like how my cleats are set up. I went to the speed play setup. Wahoo brought them out. That really works for me. It's just so many levels of adjustability. I know I have a leg length discrepancy. I have a lot of like bad kind of like trauma stuff going on in my leg just from running in the military for 2 damn decades. But that really has helped me out going to the speed play system, because it gives me like precise float. Because when you go with like a Shimano or a Look, you got standard float. It might be like 6 degrees, 9 degrees, or 12 degrees, right? And usually that float may be in that window, maybe like 6 degrees, 9 degrees, 12 degrees, right? But if your feet are kind of off, or you're off, or maybe you got an asymmetric or dissymmetry with your body, you might need 6 degrees of float, but you might need it right here. With the speed play system, you can do that. So I would say if you're having problems with your bike fit and you've been going to bike fitters and you kind of still having some issues, check on your cleats and maybe try a different pedal system. Just try it. I think that might help with getting comfortable on the bike, because that's what personally helped me out. Just a lot of trial and error and trying something different.
So man, we've been sitting here kind of chopping it up about bikes and clubs and all that in our background. And you mentioned like how long have I known you, how we got to interacting. So one of the things that, like I said, I reached out to you about some tires and this, that, and the third. You were very responsive. And I looked at your other content; it's been great. So it's kind of inspired me to be like, man, that's kind of cool. First of all, I get to see a brother on YouTube, very knowledgeable, very articulate, and with awesome products like the stuff he got. I'm like,
I'm
I'm
about to
like,
do a pan of the studio because some people don't know. They show up, they be like,
oh,
"Oh my goodness, this."
yeah, this dude right here, he's the real deal. You know what I'm saying? He's like the real deal. Like from bikes to equipment. I can certainly appreciate the level of investment that he's in on this. So I guess the next thing I'm like where I'm at, and I'm kind of new on the whole social media scene, right? So when I see what you've accomplished, which is awesome, like I've talked to some of my friends who are in the club with me, and I was like, "Have you heard of Robert?" And a couple guys said, "Yeah, man, I bought a Factor, and I saw his Factor review." And then a couple other guys said they saw a couple of your reviews, and I'm like, "Wow, that's kind of cool." So this is kind of a long story, but let me shorten the question. How easy, how difficult? What are some of the fundamental things that you would have to do to kind of begin a platform on YouTube? For myself, I have very little social media experience. IG is really the only thing I kind of toy around with, but I'm very much interested in seeing if there's something that could be developed because I think that people want to see more of themselves on social media and want to see if you can give me some advice on how to get started perhaps in a YouTube channel platform.
That is an excellent topic. I get asked that a lot. The cliche answer to that is you got to just start, right? You got to start. And my biggest thing I would tell you is start with the equipment that you have. A lot of people tell you, listen, I talk to a lot of folks, and sometimes I'll be talking to them about camera stuff. They say, man, I got this 4K camera, this 6K camera. And I'll ask them a question like, where are you going to publish this content at? They said, oh, I'm gonna put it on Instagram. I was like, does Instagram support 8K video? And they be like, I don't know. I was like, so why do you have an 8K camera? You know what I'm saying? Because like if you look at my equipment's kind of old, man. These cameras, I'm shooting at 1080p, man. Now, when you watch my content, it says 4K, but I upscaled to 4K. And the reason why I did it, because I said, how can I master my equipment without spending any more money? So that would be the first thing, right? Just start and then start with the equipment that you got, right? The number one thing that's gonna make your video look good is lighting. As you can just see right now, sitting here, you can see all the different lights that are in here. That is what makes your video look good. If you got an iPhone, an Android, and some halfway decent light, you can make some good content, man. Another thing about content, right? I would say you need at least 50 pieces of content to get going, right? I don't mean like all at once. Like before you start making some noise, you need 50 pieces of content that's out there in the world. Because if you're like me and you watch a bunch of YouTube, if I jump on YouTube and I see Dre on there and I'm watching a video and it's 10 minutes long, if I'm 2 minutes in, I pause the video and I go to his channel and I see what else is on there. And if he only got one video on there, I'm like, I kind of don't even want to watch it because I want to be hooked. It's just like jumping on Netflix. You jump on Netflix, you find a new show, and it's got one season. You don't even want to watch it. But if it's got 10, you're like, oh man, I'm about to watch this, right? So if you got like 50 pieces of content, um, that gives your audience time to connect with you. And you're probably saying, well, why the number 50? There's a strategic reason why I say 50, right? This just lets you know how dedicated you are. There's 52 weeks in a year, right? So if you take like Christmas off and your birthday off, that's 50 weeks. So if you make at least one video a week for a year, you're rocking and rolling. But you got to be committed to it, right? So I would say you got to start, work with the equipment you got, get 50 pieces of content on there, and then whatever your audience is, just believe that they will find you because they will. Because I'm gonna tell you this, right? There's nothing that you want to put on YouTube that somebody hasn't already done. A lot of time people want to be the first one to do this. They want to put their own little spin on it. They want to be. Everyone's done it, man. Everyone's done it. When I started YouTube, I said I'm gonna talk about bicycles and guns, and people said you're never gonna have a channel that's gonna be monetizing this. I'm monetized. I'm making great content, but this is stuff that I'm interested in, and I just did it and I stuck with it. So that'd be my advice, man. Start, get your 50 pieces of content on there, Start with the basic equipment you get you some halfway decent light, find you something that you think your audience is going to connect with, and just push the content out. The rest will happen. Trust me, it will happen. That's my advice for that.
Excellent. Outstanding. Got it. Got it. I like the monetized piece. How does that work?
So monetize, right? I think right now, so I'm gonna give you the formula, right? This is the cheat code. If you want people to stop by, you make shorts because that's going to drive people in. But if you want people to subscribe and stick around, you got to make long form content. Long form content is anything that's at least 8 minutes long, right? When you go to a lot of people's channel, they making like shorts, and shorts are not that difficult to make, and they drive people, but it doesn't keep people. People want to see long form content, so you kind of got to do both, right? To get monetized, if you're doing shorts only, I believe you need it's something crazy like 1 million views in 4 months, something like that. And I'll give you an example. On average, a good short for me, like in maybe 2 days, it done like 1,000 views. So that's not that much. So if you're planning on getting monetized by shorts, I want to say it's like you need 1 million views within like 4 months. Now the traditional way to do it is you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours within 1 year. And it just changed over every day. It just keeps reoccurring. So if you want to get monetized, you got to get the subscribers, man. You got to get at least 1,000 of them. You need 4,000 watch hours. It sounds like a big task, but like I said, if you pushing out that content, it's gonna happen. It is gonna happen. You just got to be consistent, and consistency has to be your consistency. Some people say, hey, drop it every week, drop it every day. If that's not your consistency, then that's not consistent. If you're dropping videos once a month, that's your consistency. If you're dropping videos once every 2 weeks, that's your consistency. Just as long as you are being consistent. Me personally, I try to drop a video at least once a week. And I got so much content, like I got content for days that's just in the queue, and I just drop them every week. But that's my consistency. And then if there was like a week that I didn't have something, I already have something because I kind of stagger out
Okay.
how I'm putting out what I produce. So that's kind of my recommendation.
Nice, nice. Makes sense, man. Makes sense. Watch out for me.
He's go. So what's your channel gonna be called?
Well, right now my IG is on your left,
Okay.
so I haven't gotten that far. I just kind of have like that desire. I'm at that point of desire and trying to get the full conception going or a concept of what I want it to look like and what I want to cover. People all the time tell me, say, Andre, because I run, I cycle, I lift weights, and I'm always an advocate for fitness and health. I'll stop and help anyone. You know, it's just part of who I am. And so people often said, Andre, you need to get on social media. I think you'd be great. And the common phrase I hear is that people want to see themselves and that you will be a reflection of our community, doing something positive, something healthy, very much in the same way that you're doing it. And so, which is why I reached out to you. So, it would be cool to be a part of that social media movement.
Listen, when you talk about helping anybody, right? I'm just gonna let you know that I be paying attention to stuff, right? This man's out riding. He done rode like 30 some miles. The next thing you know, he's off the side of the road in the ditch, saving the turtle, man, sitting back in the wildlife. Like this is his level of care for what's going on around him, man. Normal people ain't doing that, man.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
It's funny that so recently I've rescued multiple turtles. Like I'm like my guy said he's gonna call me Turtle Man. My homeboy said I'm gonna call you Turtle Man. I've rescued turtles. So we're about 30 miles into this ride and we're probably doing 22, 23 miles an hour. We see something in the middle of the road, right? And my guy's like, he looks over at me and says, Andre, he didn't say Andre, he said Dre, he said, that's a dead turtle. And I was like, that's cruel. Like, how can you just say that, bro? And so he kept going. I hit my brakes. I'm like, and then he's like, looks back. He's like, Dre, what you doing, man? I'm like, man, I'm about to say this. I'm about to say this turtle. You said it's about to get killed. And so I roll over. I pull my bike over, lay it on the side of the road. Cars are stopping because they thought I got in some type of accident because I did a sudden stop. And I grabbed this turtle and I returned it to its habitat. So, yeah, that's the type of stuff I do.
We need more people like you in this world, man. Everybody need a little help
That's funny.
sometime, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny.
Oh man. You've been cycling for a minute, right?
Yeah,
A beginner cyclist, what advice would you give to them?
yeah. I always tell people, because people often ask me how to get involved in cycling. I always tell them, first of all, obviously, get you a bike you feel comfortable on. I tell people oftentimes, they say, "Oh, Andre, I don't want to clip in." I would say that should be the last thing you think about with regards to your bike handling. So I would say get a bike, take it out to the park, take it out to a trail, which is how I learned my bike handling skill. A guy was like, Andre, take your bike out, your road bike out on a trail because it curves a lot, right? If it's, as long as it's not a straight one. And so I actually got better with my bike handling skill. So one, I would say, get you a bike. Two, learn how to handle the bike. I would recommend not going immediately to a group ride where you're riding with, four plus or more people and you have no experience in handling the bike. So what I often recommend, again, just to circle back, is go to a park, maybe a park that has a curvy road. You're going to focus on braking, turning, and then do that for at least a couple weeks. I did my first ride on a road bike was like 9 miles. Like I rode nine, and now I'm riding 100 miles. So it is progressive. So get you a good bike that you feel comfortable on. Focus less on being clipped in. Learn bike handling skills. Learn bike maintenance. Make sure your brakes are operating properly. Make sure you have a rear back brake. I see so many people. I've been to other states and I see bikers on the roadway and they don't have any rear light. So make sure you have a front and a rear headlight. Uh, and then go out and have fun. And I think that's the essential thing. And once you have the bike handling down, then you can start looking into getting clipped in, which is going to aid in your power delivery. So, and then when you get clipped in, you may want to ride by yourself, and then eventually may evolve into riding with a group.
That is some great advice, man. I would say my advice to anyone getting into cycling, I know I'm gonna make it very simple. You got to ride the bike. It's gonna suck. I have some people say, "Man, I want to ride, but I can't." Listen, I have a lot of buddies at different levels, and I got somebody they can't even ride 10 miles. But if they hit me up and say, "Rob, I want to ride," I'll go ride with them. Dude, we can do 10 miles an hour, 13 miles an hour, because we all been there. You just gotta get on the bike. You gotta ride the bike. That's the only way it's gonna get better. And to be honest, it never really gets better because cycling still sucks, man. I go out and ride 30, 40, 50 miles, man. It still sucks. It's just a little bit more enjoyable because the fitness is there. But the two beginner cyclists, you got to get on the bike. You got to get on the bike. You got to ride the bike. That's my biggest advice. You just get on the bike.
So, Rob, one of the things I wanted to talk about while I was here and I had your attention, I just kind of wanted to say that I noticed a lot of women are getting into the sport of cycling and road biking, and I'm really excited about that. Myself, I'm a huge supporter of getting anybody involved, and particularly when women want to get involved and they want to be strong cyclists, not just your club riders, but they aspire to have power and be in the A group and do some pulling and put some work in. So I think it's an awesome thing. And what has your experience have been?
So where I'm at in Augusta, there's not too many lady like super strong cyclists that I've seen in Augusta. There's a couple of them. One of them, there's my master mechanic down at Chamber, actually a guy named Brad. His wife, she's super strong. She's a strong person. I got another guy I ride with, a guy named Andrew. His wife Savannah, she's very strong. She be riding with the guys A group and all that, but I don't really see a lot of them. I think there's more of them in like the Atlanta area more than the Augusta area. But I would love to see more female cyclists because when I'm out on the bike, I'm just like, where are all these ladies at, man? Because I used to be a runner and then I started cycling once I started having a lot of problems running and my legs and all that stuff. But when I was running, I would always see a gang of like elite female runners, and I was like, I would think they would um, translate to the sport of cycling just as much, but I don't really see as many of them like in my area specifically, but I would like to see more of them. So in the Houston area, are there more people, more women?
Yeah, there is an explosion of female cyclists in Houston, man. Again, when I started pre-COVID, it would be like, let's say if we're talking a group ride of, let's say, 20 people, you may have maybe three women in the group. Now, if you have 20 people coming out or more, you're probably looking at a third of the people are women. Like, so women in the Houston area, the greater Houston area, are highly involved in the sport. And what I've been finding is that oftentimes I've had the privilege of someone coming up to me, women asking me, what can they do to become stronger cyclists. And what I often tell them is that you have to get out of the group ride. You're going to have to, like Rob was saying, you have to put miles on the bike. Nothing beats miles on the bike. I don't care what type of bike you ride, nothing's going to beat miles on a bike. So I often try to encourage them to do some solo rides so they can get used to the wind work, the climbing, and then if safety is a factor, I tell them, well, ride with someone and then rotate. Let them pull you, and then for a little while, when you recover, then you pull them. So that because a lot of at least the ladies that I know, they don't do a lot of pulling because of the required strength that's sometimes associated with whatever speed you're going to. So anyway, so I always recommend that they ride with someone that's slightly stronger than them, that they can pull them, you can do the rotation, and that's going to get them stronger. The female cyclists that aspire to be really strong cyclists, and in the Houston community, man, there's some women here that are like awesome, man. It's like they on my wheel. I look behind and I'm like, I'm like I thought it was somebody else and they just right there with it, man, and I love it. I'm very supportive of it. I think it's awesome. I think that they should be included in the sport of in terms of endurance and speed and things like that. So um, I can't say enough about women getting into the sport. I think it's a great thing.
Listen, I'm gonna give you ladies a piece of advice if you want to get deeper into the sport, right? Even if you don't have other female cyclists around you, we're in the power of social media. It is 2024. There's so much technology out there. Reach out to people. If you haven't seen my interview with Miss Kendall Ryan, check it out. I met her at the race. She had just got done race, and we sat and talked bikes for like a dang on an hour, man. She knew more about bikes than like all my buddies that I ride with, man. She was super cool. Another person that you could reach out to if you get on Instagram, and I'll pop her IG up on the screen, Miss Jenna Forley, right? She is all about cycling. I want to say she's in the Philadelphia area, and I think she just got nominated to be one of the announcers on the upcoming Chocolate City Criterium. It's her and another female. They are the first two black female hosts that are going to be announcing and calling the race. Check them out. Look them out on IG. They'll be more than happy to talk bikes with you, get you deeper into the sport of cycling. I think they'll definitely be the person to help you out if you want to talk to another female cyclist. Reach out to them, most definitely. Segue, right? We talk about the Cervelo. We talk about all these other bikes, and what's your dream bike, or just a bike that you got on your radar that you?
Yeah. Well, it was I was kind of eyeballing that S Works, but then that price tag made life a little bit more realistic for me, right? So I like the S Works. There's a red color that's out, but right now the Lee is a bike that I have in my eyesight. I think it's aluminum frame. It's welded. So that if I do some crit racing and something were to happen to the frame, if it breaks or what have you, it could be easily welded back together, which is a plus of the Elite. It's a I believe it's the lightest aluminum frame that's out from what I was understanding in terms for crit racing
I
for
think it.
aluminum.
I don't know if it. I don't know if
It's
it is the
but
lightest, but it has a lot of
yeah,
accolades. The
yeah,
Specialized LA is it's a badass bike,
it
man.
is. It's sweet. It's
Oh
sweet.
man, it's a bad bike,
Yeah.
man. And I'll tell you this too, right? What color are you thinking about?
It's the red. I can't remember what
Ooh,
the
like the kind of maroon color.
yes,
So like the one like my dad got.
the one that your father
If you
has.
haven't seen my dad's bike, I'll put it up so you can see it. But
Oh,
it is crazy. But I'll tell you this, right? If you're between the LA red maroon color and the tarmac one,
mhm.
the tarmac does not look like that. The tarmac's very dark,
Yeah,
almost like brown color. It's not sexy like that.
yeah.
But the LA,
Oh
that
my
joint,
gosh,
it's a pretty bike, man. And the LA performs, man. If you're on the fence like you really want a tarmac, I really don't think you can go wrong with the Soleil. You know, the Lay is a great bike. I rode the other day and I got mine set up one by. I'm running a 54 narrow wide chainring and we went riding on the airfield, man. I think we did like a 30-mile ride and it was just rolling, man.
wow.
The Lay is a great bike and at the price
Yeah,
you can't beat it, man.
yeah.
You can't beat it.
Yeah, that price point is definitely what's encouraging me to go at, especially because I have other bicycles, and so adding that to my inventory is cost effective. It's an awesome machine. I'll do the ETAP system on it. I think you recommended the Rovell headset, I believe,
The Robo,
cockpit.
yeah,
Yeah, the
the
Rovell.
Robo cockpit. Now listen, I wasn't. when the Robo cockpit first came out, they was having some issues with the computer mount being at a bad pitch, and I talked a lot of trash about it. I'm not even gonna lie, but I brought the Robo cockpit, and I'm actually riding it on my Factor Ostrovam, and it is great. It is such a good bar system that I went out and bought another one, and I'm about to put it on my lay. But if
Nice.
anyone's getting a lay, I would highly recommend, dude, spend less money, get the lay, and then spend the money on the cockpit. Get you. So this time you got to go electronic.
Oh
You,
yeah,
you
yes,
can't go
yeah.
mechanical on
Nah,
this
no
one. You
more
go.
mechanical for me. No, my Canyon is E-tap, and I love it. For climbing, I noticed that I climb much easier because the gears just shift so seamlessly. But yeah, I'm done with the mechanical. Yeah, thanks, man.
Are you right? Are you riding tubeless?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. All my bikes are tubeless.
Would you ever go back to tubes?
I'll never go back to
Never
tubeless.
go back?
No. So this is a true story, right? My bike, 2019. I've only had two flats, actually punctures. I've only had two punctures. Yeah, knock on wood, right? Knock on wood. So I've only had two punctures, but I probably have had flats, but because of the self-sealing properties, I've never experienced a flat on the road. So I'm a huge uh, 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 supporter of tubeless, the low PSI, the contact patch. It's just a great. I feel like I'm riding a Cadillac, with those 30s. But yeah, I hadn't had I had a puncture twice, and I had to replace the entire tire. But if anybody has a puncture, they're going to replace the tire anyway. So I love it.
What PSI are you running?
Because of my weight, it's just, you run the PSI as you know, as it associates with your weight. Mine is 56 in the back and a 53 in the front. So, but I generally pump it up to about 50, just under 60, and I put about 55 in the front. Now, I made a mistake. Now, this is funny, true story. This really happened, man. So I'm like, I want to know how this bike feels with a really stiff tire, like really firm. So I'm at the house right before my group ride, true story, and I'm pumping it up. I was like, I'm gonna put 75. Nah, I'm gonna put 80 in it, dude. I don't know what I was thinking. It was 5 in the morning. I put 80 in the back, and I think I put 65 in the front. So I'm out on a group ride, and I'm riding with a bunch of hammers. And we start out, and like it ain't no warm up. It's like we 22, 23, the second mile into it, right? And I'm sweating, and my heart rate is up. My heart strap rate monitor is telling me like my heart rate's like 165, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm in shape. I ate. I did everything right. Why is my heart rate so high? So we ride 20 miles. I'm struggling to keep up with A. I stopped, and this was a supported ride. So I stopped. There was a mechanic, and he's like, Andre, your back tire's rubbing. So I have so little clearance on my S5 that I had overinflated the tire, and it was causing my tire to rub the frame. Fortunately, it didn't do any real damage, but the simple fix was he took his finger and was like, and
Just got a
then
little bit of air.
yeah, he just was, I felt like this tall, man. But it was crazy, man. My legs were burnt out in 20 miles. My legs were done because it was like I had a parachute on or something. It was
Wow,
crazy. So about 55 to no more than 60 in the back.
that's pretty low. And how much you weigh?
Hey.
Oh, you a big guy? How much you
Oh
weigh?
man, I don't even know. Honestly, bro, this is truth. This is fact. I really don't even weigh myself. I don't. I don't. I don't.
He don't want to tell you how much he weighs. Well, I
Now you're gonna be
don't
asking my
know.
age. Then you're gonna be asking my age.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you something about age, right? A lot of times I'm cycling and people be talking to me about all kind of stuff, right? And then you start getting deep into someone's life, and then someone like, "Yo, you done a lot of stuff. How old are you?" I'm like, "Yo, I'm 40 years old." They're like, "You're 40?" I'm like, "Yeah." Listen to me. This man right here. How old are you, bro? This guy's 55 years old, man. I couldn't
That's
believe
crazy.
it. I couldn't believe it. Because look, we was talking about it. He's like, yeah, my son's like 30 something. I said, 30 something? Oh, months? He's like 9 years. I was like, wow. Dude, you look great, man, for 55, bro.
Thanks.
You look
Thanks.
great, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, thank the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And I guess genetics, and I guess I've made some healthy choices in my lifestyle. So I feel blessed, man. I feel blessed to be able to operate on a high level out here cycling 100+ degree weather for whatever many miles, and I run as well. So I feel blessed, man. I don't take it for granted, and I try to foster my lifestyle to help support that. So I appreciate that, man. Thanks.
The secret is you got to have your back tire rubbing the frame, man. You got to work. You got to you got to
Ah,
work,
that was
man.
crazy. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Any piece of advice that you want to give out to anybody, man, regarding anything, man. You spent 55 years on this planet. You're out here crushing it. You're doing great things, man. You're riding great bikes. Any advice to anybody about anything?
Well, just off the top, man, I would just say that just take care of yourself. I always try to think of myself. Andre, I say to myself, if the condition that I'm currently at, can I sustain that down the road, right? So it makes me make the right choices, because if I'm living unhealthy and I'm eating fried chicken, like, multiple times, I less still like fried chicken now. If I'm eating multiple times of fried chicken or fried food, something, how long can I sustain that lifestyle before it affects me, right? So the advice that I try to give myself and I give to others is that examine where you're at, and can you move that type of lifestyle forward to where it's going to benefit you. So you start making choices based upon that. And so that's kind of what I started doing. I'm like, no, I can't be doing that, because I can't go cycling, I can't go running, I'm not gonna sleep well at night, or what have you. So I just try to make decisions based upon what my goals are and how I can foster my lifestyle to make that happen.
Man, that is great advice, man. It has been great having a conversation with you, man. I really appreciate the Houston
Yeah.
hospitality. If you want to find Andre, I'll drop all his socials down there. It'd be his IG, it'd be his Strava, and soon it'll be his YouTube channel as well, man. But that's all we got for y'all. I appreciate y'all coming out and hanging out with us. This is your boy, Mr. Robb Armstrong, and we are out. And that's it,
Awesome, man.
man.
That was fun.
Dude, that was
That was
great.
awesome. That's cool.
That was
All
great.
right, that's cool.